Guys, thanks for joining us out there in the virtual world. We got Dusty with us today.
Morning. How are you guys?
I am good. How are you, Sam?
Doing all right.
Awesome. Brian Schroeder here with Dusty Sanders.
Correct.
And Sam Prim. And Rachel's over there doing Rachel's thing.
Lucas is on the beach, probably 4 or 5 ratty lights deep on the beach right now.
There's Rachel.
Hi guys. If you are interested, Sam and I did a video that went out this week, so check it out. I'm going to put the link in the comments. It's I'm kind of a newbie here in the real estate world, and Sam's the pro. We did a fun video, and if nothing else, watch the last 2 minutes for the bloopers.
Yes, Rachel really wants her video to be the #1 video on our YouTube channel, so she is pushing it as much as she can.
It's number 2 right now.
It's number 2, so we need some views and likes. Rachel put it on in the comments. But let's get rolling.
All right, so we do this live stream every Thursday morning at 11:30. So come on back, join us whenever you can.
Say hey if you're watching, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. Say hi, tell us what you're from, ask any questions, whether it's what we're talking about or anything else real estate related.
We love questions. Dusty loves questions.
I like questions.
We're mostly going to be talking about the rental business today, but we can talk about flipping, lending, traditional rentals, whatever you guys want to talk
We're going
about.
to talk about Dusty's story. How many rentals do you have right now?
33.
How many rentals did you have 26 months ago?
None.
Okay, we're going to go into that.
0 to 33 in 26 months
Or less.
Yes.
or less. So that's a good story. This will be fun.
It's entertaining, and it was a complete blur.
Well, we're going to dig into more of that here in just a sec. So we're in the St. Louis area. We do a lot of real estate investment stuff. We have a flipping business. We have a hard money lending business. We have a rental portfolio. All of us do. We have a traditional brokerage, and we do this education gig.
And we manage those properties too, so kind of a property management company in here
Yeah.
too. And there's a title company in this office. We don't own that, but it's in this office. So everything in this one office, there's a lot going on.
Stop on by and say hi sometime. We'd love to have you. All right, so should we just jump in?
Let's do it. Let's just get rolling.
Well, let's talk about market activity real quick for just a minute.
We'll go quickly. Yep. So leads were good this last week. We had 18, so pretty average. Our goal is 20, but we had 5 come in today already.
Where'd they come from?
They're
Any
not
idea?
that 18. Yes. 2 of them were outbound calling. One of them was SEO on our website. One of them texted the main office line that has a text number to it.
They just texted us out of the blue?
Mm-hmm. We sent them a letter.
It said, okay, so we
sent them a letter.
direct mail.
Yep. And then the other one was another direct mail and inherited trust.
So a couple direct mails, a couple cold calling, and an SEO.
Yep.
So marketing works.
Marketing's working good, and we had 3 buys, which our goal is 3 to 4. So it's just a pretty average week. We had an average amount of leads, average amount of buys, so that's good. And Dusty had one of them too, which was awesome. And
Congratulations, man. Where was your house at?
Tower Grove East.
Awesome.
In the city.
What kind of lead was it?
Networking lead. There's a networking lead. Got it from another wholesaler that I talk to quite frequently.
Nice.
And he brought it to the table because he needed some fast cash now. He's getting ready to buy a personal house this month. So he needed the easy button.
Yeah, and sales are good too. I think we had 3 or 4 sales. We just had one yesterday. They went live yesterday. One Dusty bought a month ago that we just rehabbed. The condo
in Lake St. Louis.
Just went for $2 grand over asking. Closed in a little
Boom.
right at 30
Boom.
days.
That's
A little
right.
over 30 days. So the market is still resilient and hot.
Market is hot. I keep thinking it might slow down, but it's not going to.
Stop
winter.
thinking that.
All right, I'm going to
I'm
stop.
going to think positive.
And rent collection is all good. No reason to talk about that
Let's
anymore.
dig into Dusty's cool story. 33 is pretty impressive, Dusty.
All right. Before we do that, I want to do a shout out to our trusted vendor of the week.
Yep.
So Dennis Venetia with Beacon Recovery. So if you guys have any rental properties,
I'm used to
and the tenant that you have to evict and you get a judgment against that tenant, there are some people that are just super talented at collecting on judgments, and then there are some people that are just not. Dennis is the super talented one. He does an awesome job of collecting on judgments. You've used him, Dusty?
Yeah, I have on Yaki, and he found creative ways to get most of our money back already.
Yeah. We use him all the time on judgments. We started using Dennis maybe a year and a half ago, and we had judgments that were like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and we just collected all those judgments. We'd actually had our attorney try to collect on them before, and I don't know. I feel like our attorney is good at attorney work, not so much on that.
On the eviction process, they have that ironed out, but
Yeah,
not so much
exactly.
on the collection.
Yeah, so anybody that's got rental property, sooner or later, you're gonna get a judgment. So if you're in the Missouri or Illinois area, give Dennis a call with Beacon Recovery. He can collect on that judgment for you. So anyway, on to, and Rachel will throw in the Dennis's contact information in that chat box there. And fill up that chat box with your questions. And ask Dusty a question here if you got one. So, Dusty, 26 months ago, you didn't own any rentals?
I didn't own a single rental. Didn't even have an LLC in my name for real estate.
Didn't have the idea.
Didn't have the idea.
Where'd that idea come from?
Actually, a good friend of mine that has bought a bunch of houses from you guys that I've been friends with since 3rd or 4th grade.
We're getting comfortable, guys.
Yeah, I'm getting comfortable. Sorry.
Are you talking about Max?
I'm talking about Max Norris. He's a member of their
Shout out to
FasterFreedom
Max.
Mastermind. Yeah.
Max is a firefighter. You guys
Yes.
are in the first responder community.
We both are. Yeah, we started playing hockey in high school together, or elementary school, all the way up, and we chose the same career paths with public service as well. So
it's in the comments now, just so you know.
He brought me to one of your guys' meetings, and I believe it was April of 2016.
Our Buyers Club meeting?
Yeah, Buyers Club meeting here in the new town. Actually, it was still in the old new
Town
town
hall?
hall, in the
Yeah.
town hall. And I sat in on the meeting the first night, and I listened to Brian talk about passive income and the freedom of what that could provide for you. And I was hooked from that point on. I had to make this happen.
Did you sleep that night?
No, I didn't. I ran a little under 30 miles that night here in St. Charles, through the area, down past the riverfront and on back up. And I just couldn't, my mind was full of information that I didn't know what to do with. So running at the time, running is one of
There's
my.
a lot of space in Dusty's mind.
Correct.
Not much going on up
Yeah.
there, so it's a lot
So,
of things around.
I left the meeting.
Both of
and,
you guys.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, I'm sitting between two guys that their minds are always going.
I left the meeting and went home, and I went out for a run, and I didn't come back until the wee hours of the morning because I just was trying to put my life in order to figure out how I could get this started.
What do you think got you so, why were you interested? What got you fired up about it?
The formula and equation you did in the beginning about how many rentals it would take to equal your monthly cash flow to cover all your expenses.
Yes.
And when you put that into a formula, it just clicked. It was like a light bulb went off that I knew that this is the amount of rentals I needed to have in one pot to pay this pot every month and not have to worry about going to work every day.
Should we do that real quick, just so everybody
Yeah.
understands? So it's a very simple formula. So it's basically, we ask people, how much money do you need to live on for a month? Or what's your monthly expenses? So roughly, just give me a number. That's
Let's say at the time it was $5,000.
$5,000. So you got $5,000 a month you need coming in to cover your monthly expenses. So how can you accomplish covering that with your rental property? So every month, at the beginning of the month, that you've got enough money coming in from your cash flow on your rentals to cover your whole monthly expenses. So you don't live week to week or paycheck to paycheck.
No.
So what do you average on your rental house?
Of every one that we have currently, including we just bought a 10 unit on Friday. So that formula is going to change a little bit, but up until that point, our average for the 23 single families that we have is $297 a door.
Nice. All right. So I'm going to pull out my little
Let's
calculator.
just
here.
drive to 300 and make it.
60, it's like 16 doors to cover that $5,000 monthly, 16-ish doors.
Yep. So if you have 16 houses that are each bringing in $300 a month, you got $5,000 a month coming in from your rental property. You could retire if you wanted to.
That's the plan.
That's a super easy plan, isn't
Yep,
it?
it is. I learned that lesson real early in life that my grandparents one side of my family retired at before the age 40.
Okay.
So that was always my goal. I'm 37 now,
Okay.
so I'm gonna make that goal happen.
All right.
That's happening.
Well, that's exciting. So I can understand why you got so excited and why you didn't sleep that night.
Yeah, I didn't sleep. It was what I thought was gonna be such a problem to accumulate this. After a few days, I realized that it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. If you put in a little bit of effort and a lot of research, you can make it happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's why I feel like I always push wherever you are going to these local meetups. If you're in St. Louis, obviously go to all of them, including ours, Buyers Club. But in any city, wherever you're watching from, they have these local real estate meetups, whether you know about them or not. So look them up and find them. And whether you have rentals or not, like Dustin didn't have any, he learned a lot. That changed his life going to that meeting. And even if you do have them, you go to those meetings and you meet contractors and you meet wholesalers, and you meet real estate agents, and you meet everything. So that's just, it's a perfect example. That kicked off all you've done is just going to that one meeting.
Even 4 years later, I still have those notes from the very first meeting I was at during the side door of my truck.
Does that make you feel special, Brian? You presented that line.
I do, I still have them.
He wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for you.
Correct, I've said that more times than not.
Well, I'm just glad it all worked out for everybody. So
That is-
can you kind of take us along the path a little bit? So you got excited that night, you took notes, you were in. What did you do next?
Got my life in order, my personal life in order, to where as soon as I got to the date that I was looking for, which was like the fall of 2017, with just a date that I picked at the time, that I could set this plan in motion. So I got all my LLC documents done. I got, like a business bank account and just pieces of the puzzle that I kept reading and finding information on, and then coming in and talking to you guys in the monthly meetings to kind of set myself up to a level playing field when I could turn the switch on to make it happen. I could start buying houses.
Okay, so roughly how long was it from when you went to that first meeting to when you turned the switch on?
Right at a year. Probably.
Okay, so you spent about a year getting
But it was more getting my personal life situated at the time. I was finishing a historic rehab in St. Charles City and things that I had already been working on that I didn't want to cloud my life up at the time with kids and married life, etc.
That makes sense. All right, so then you get everything in order. You start. What was the first thing you did?
How'd your first rental go?
Well, I bought my very first rental. I bought was on Paul Avenue in Florissant. I joined a mastermind right before a mastermind in North County that Bryan was also involved with at the time in North County or Florissant area. And I looked at a whole mountain of houses leading up to the one, and I finally found one that was all brick, 3-bed, 2-bath, like just nice, clean house. And I bought that in, I guess, early October of 17, somewhere in that October timeframe was 2017. And within 90 days, I bought 3 other houses at that point. Like I bought one, I was like, well, this is really easy. Let's buy more. So I continued to buy. We did a rehab on that first house. It wasn't exactly my taste or my speed at the time, but that was what I was kind of coached into, is just clean and functional, and it'll rent no questions asked. So that was a learning curve. So I put that one on the market, and let's say in early November, and it sat there all the way through November and December. And finally, I made the conscious decision. At the time, I had a coach, and I said, I'll do one your way and I'll do one my way, and we'll see which one works out better. And so I bought a second house on Yaqui in Florissant, and I spent about another $2,500 extra in that house that I didn't spend in the first house. And that one rented on a holiday weekend with 50 showings and a dozen or so applications of all positive approved tenants. So I learned very quickly that I needed to make a house that somebody wanted to live in, not had to live in.
Okay.
So then I took my first house, Paul Avenue, off the market, finished a rehab the way I wanted to do it. I put new floors in the bathrooms and glazed the showers and a new floor in the kitchen. And I built a custom butcher block island while I was on the ambulance and installed that. And we put it on the market, and we rented again with some 50 showings in Florissant on Valentine's Day weekend, I think. And
How did you buy those first few? Did you use your money?
No, I used hard money. I didn't have any money at the time.
You don't need money.
You didn't have any
I didn't have any money at the
What
time.
gave you the idea you could go buy houses if you didn't have any money?
I had like $6,000 in my savings account. That's what I had.
That's awesome.
And,
I think that's a great story. I think it's great for people to hear that. You don't have to have a ton of money. You just got to know the process and stuff. So you used hard money.
I did.
They lent you the whole purchase price?
The first 2 I didn't need the purchase price on. Or no, I used the purchase price and the rehab budgets on the first 2.
Okay.
So I borrowed 75% of the ARV, and that included my purchase price and the rehab.
Okay.
And then both the extras that I put in both come out of my own pocket, but they rented so fast it was worth it at the time.
Yeah.
So I used hard money on I've probably done 40 hard money loans, I bet, in the last 2 years, 2+ years. Yeah.
So you're not using your own money, and you're still buying them and renting them, or buying them and flipping them, which is important. I think it's good to note that Dusty has a niche where he makes his house so nice that he gets the appraisal, he gets crazy high appraisals, he gets crazy high rent, so he has more in them, but they still appraise out and they rent for higher, so it kind of covers the higher monthly note, because he's getting more rent coming. He learned that pretty quick, which is awesome about using, we always preach you can do it however you want, but we do it with no money out of our own pocket,
Yeah.
the BRRRR method or BRRRR strategy. And that's the great part about doing it through the BRRRR. You can make it nice when you're buying houses that are already occupied, or you're putting 20% down on something and not fixing it up. It's harder to potentially make the house nicer than the tenant wanted. The tenants want your house because
Yeah, and then they
because you
stay.
rehab them.
Yeah, they stay put.
Mhm.
And we, up until recently, most of my rentals were, whether they be in the same county that I lived in or not, were better quality houses than what I lived in personally for the first several years. And I got scolded all the time at home for that. They would
Well,
have-
one of many reasons you probably get schooled.
Yeah, they had custom tile kitchens and, custom kitchens, custom bathrooms.
He
You know.
keeps rotating. I think right by the end, he's going to be facing
Why
that
are you doing that?
Y'all know I don't sit still well.
He's going to be facing back instead to your
Just
system.
better here. I'll stay
There
over
you
here.
go, that's good.
I'm not- I just
Talk to the folks out
Yeah,
there.
just don't sit still well.
You have
Sorry.
46 people watching you right now.
Perfect.
Yeah, and
So-
ask questions in the comments. If you have any questions for Dusty, or even maybe put in there how many houses, what you think your financial freedom number is. Because we just talked about, just do your monthly expenses, do 200 to 300 per house, and how many houses you need. Put them in there and put it out there.
My monthly, to cover my monthly expenses, I thought that was gonna take me 10 years to do. My
Yeah.
formula is out to 10 years out. And after the first 3 houses, I refied off of them, after a short seasoning period with tenants in place, I realized this wasn't as hard as I thought it was gonna be. And I just started chewing up houses left and right. If I could buy it and make the numbers work with me swinging a hammer on it, I would buy it.
Mhm.
Even if it was a little higher than most, if I used my own labor, I was able to buy houses that some people couldn't.
Yeah, because you were doing some of the work
Yeah.
yourself.
Mhm.
Are you still doing some of the work yourself?
Very little,
Very
very
little.
little.
Yeah.
I like to tinker once in a while, if it's a specialty project or, like building a butcher block countertop for something or wrapping some stuff in shiplap or, just piddly stuff, but I don't swing a whole lot of hammer anymore.
You like doing stuff that you like to do.
Yeah.
Stuff you don't like to do, you hire out.
Higher up.
So can you talk a little bit about how, it took you a little while to get that first one,
Mhm.
make the, get everything set up. But then it seems like you were pretty quick at getting the second, third,
Yeah.
fourth, fifth. So
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask, how did you kind of make that shift and how hard was it?
After I did my first 2 refis, which would have been, I guess, in March or April of 18, I did Paul, Yaki, and Anson, I think. Boom, boom, boom. Right, like refied them real quick. I was like, well, this is no big deal. And all my carrying costs and things that we had associated with it was
Well, you're speaking of refi,
Permanent,
so
yeah.
what do you get your permanent financing?
my permanent financing. I've got 2 different banks that I deal with, and we found that in the grand scheme of things, the local small banks that had less than, say, a dozen branches do a whole lot more business with small real estate investors.
Well,
So
yeah.
you may have to go outside of your comfort zone of the county you live in to find like small farmer type banks that do a lot with the rural community, and they seem to be very flexible on buying rentals or allowing you to refinance off of them.
They're called a portfolio lender.
Portfolio
They buy
lenders.
the property and they hold the note in-house.
Yeah.
Right? They
That's
don't
what
sell
I
it
was-
off on the secondary
Can
market.
we
So
do a shout out to your favorite
Yeah,
bankers?
I'm Brad Schuster and Tim Nash. They have
So Brad Schuster with First State
yeah,
Community
First
Bank.
State Community Bank out of Wright City, and then
And
Tim Nash,
at
American Bank. Yeah. Without those 2 guys, I couldn't be where I am today.
So yeah, so Terry, to answer, those are the specific banks,
Yeah.
but I don't know exactly where you are, but just a local smaller portfolio lender, not Bank of America, not US Bank, not even those
Yeah.
big banks. You need a smaller portfolio one that they keep the note in-house. They don't sell it off on the secondary market because they can do a lot quicker, more flexible things
Yeah.
than they can if they have to package the loan and sell it off to Freddie or Fannie.
A lot of our refi times are less than 30 days.
So Terry also asked, what are the seasoning requirements? So
It's
how long did you have to have that before
On,
you refinance it?
with First State Community Bank in Wright City, I believe it's a 4-month of tenant placement is what you require. So you have to have the house rehab 4 solid months of income before they'll allow you to refinance.
So you got to get the house, buy it, fix it up,
Mhm.
and you're doing hard money to
Yep.
do that. You get a tenant in place, and then from when you get that tenant lease signed,
Correct.
4 months
4
later.
months later, he'll allow you, or they will allow you to refinance it.
How about with American Bank? Were they similar?
They are different at this stage in my career in the real estate field because now that we're a little more experienced, they don't have as stringent as requirements as the other banks do.
Partly because you built a relationship.
Yeah, built a relationship with them. They know me by name. If I go into the bank, they know us by name. They know our kids' names, etc. you build that relationship early with showing them a business plan and talking to them about what you want to do, and then you get a guidance line of sorts from them. And that provides a relationship to where they know that you aren't just a number on a spreadsheet, that you are a real person and they can trust what you're doing.
Yeah. Good.
Great. We got another great question from Danielle up there.
Love that questions. Keep bringing them
I'm
out.
interested and ready to start, but need guidance. Do you guys ever meet up or offer advice on how to get started? That is a great question. We do. That's part of what we're doing right here. So we have this YouTube channel. Looks like you're watching on YouTube. That we give a lot of free advice stuff. We have, if you're in the St. Louis area, we have a local meetup. Fast House Buyers Club. Rachel put
It's coming up, Brad.
as well. It's coming
2
up in 2 weeks. It's coming up. We meet the third Thursday of every month. We haven't been meeting recently, obviously, because of everything going on. And then go to FasterFreedom.com is where we have all of our, where our education company is. We have a webinar, a 10-week webinar that Brian, myself, and Lucas are teaching people how to grow a rental portfolio. There's my number up there. You can call or text me. I can give you more information. But we're teaching people how to build a rental portfolio to become financially free. And then we also have boot camps that we offer. So if you just go to our website, www.fasterfreedom.com, we would love to help you get started. That is what we care about. That's what we're passionate about. And that's what we're good at, is helping people become free through owning real estate. And we can definitely teach you how to do it. It is, we have all the systems in place already. We've been doing it a long time, and we can help teach you how to do it and overcome a lot of those obstacles. So there is my sales pitch.
So Dusty, you have 33 units right now.
Yep.
What is, how many do you want? What's your goal? What's your end game?
Initially, it was 24 units in 10 years is what I thought it would take me to get there. And now
What was your initial one?
One house a year for 10 years.
So you guys could just,
Yeah.
it sounds harder than it is.
it
Once
is,
you get
yeah.
going.
I bought a house on Hanson and Bell Fountain Neighbors with a tenant in place. I've only been in the house twice, and the ability to buy it and refinance off of it with a tenant in place and show that it was cash flowing, that was like a light bulb to me, like, this really works.
Yeah.
So then anything I could get my hands on that made sense in my buy zone, I would buy.
So, okay, couple of things. I want to, so where are you, what's your goals now? Where are you trying to get to?
My next milestone will be 50.
50.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
my next milestone. And I'm
So
not gonna
that-
stop there. That's
okay.
just a milestone. That's like my, let's say
That's
2 to 3 year goal is to add another chunk, but I'm gonna be very specific on where I'm buying.
Do you have an end amount or number? Or?
I don't even have to put anymore. And honest, I mean, initially it was 24, but now with as easy as it's been and positive and everything is working, and our portfolio is great loan to value all the way across the board, and it just makes sense to keep buying. And when I decide don't want to, then I won't.
So you talked a second ago about your buy zone. Can you kind of explain what that is and why you have a buy zone?
I live about 30 something miles out of St. Louis metropolitan area. So from my house, I don't want to drive anywhere that's not 30 minutes from my personal home. So that if I have to go check on a rental, it only takes me an hour round trip.
Okay.
So, and then to collect all the houses in a clump makes it a whole lot easier to keep track of too.
Yeah.
And then there's certain areas within that 30-minute bubble that I won't buy. I've kind of got restrictions on how far south I go and how far north I'll go as well.
Okay.
So I do that for convenience, and then I know the markets well. I know the tenant population fairly well, and I know from just recent experience how our rehabs rent and the speed at which they rent, and then the price at which I can push to get.
Awesome.
So I keep that zone very tight to where I know exactly if somebody sends me a house and it's outside my zip code or outside of my buy area, I don't even waste my energy on it.
Well,
For
you
me
buy it in
personally.
wholesale.
Yeah. So if it's outside my buy area, I can still buy it and wholesale it,
Yeah.
which is a great exit strategy for all of us.
So what was I going to ask? So you just brought up something I was going to ask, and I lost it.
You lost it. It was there and it was
We
gone.
call that a goldfish moment.
Goldfish moment. No, so you have your buy box that you stick into, but if somebody brings something outside of that, obviously you can do other things with it because you have other exit strategies.
And you got different exit strategies, whether it be to buy and hold as my rentals or to buy and flip. We do that as well. We flipped a dozen or more houses in the last 2 years as well, retail flips. And then we've wholesaled a small mountain
Thanks,
of that as
Mom.
well.
That's my mom saying great video. Thank you,
So
Mom.
Joe Gabrick has a question that I was going to ask you. Well, let's just ask this question. How do you locate most of the properties that you buy? How are you finding them?
So in the beginning, it was like when I very first started out, it was wholesalers like Faster House. Then you just get in nice with their buyers or acquisitions guys at the time, and you start making a relationship with them, and then they know your buy area. When they come across a house, they just send it right to you. It makes it pretty simple, but you gotta, I don't want to say annoy them, but I became very,
Annoys the right word, yes.
I became very visible in their office space, at least once or twice a week, just to look at what they had going on and build that relationship and cultivate it to where when it came time for a house to come down the pipeline, I was an easy buyer for them. They knew what I wanted, where I wanted, and the abilities of which we had to rehab.
So you bought a lot from wholesalers.
I bought a ton from wholesalers.
And I assume everybody knows what a wholesaler is, but maybe you can just explain.
Wholesalers kind of like the before MLS or before traditional market, like as is houses, things that people don't know what to do with, or they're in a position where it needs more work than what they are capable of doing. So they'll sell it as is to a wholesaler.
How do you find wholesalers?
In the initial, I got a phone number, or I got a contact from Max that just said wholesaler, had like 30 phone numbers in it.
So to have a friend who knows wholesalers is, I guess,
but there was no names attached to them. It was just a blanket contact, just said wholesaler.
Oh,
And there was like 30 phone numbers in there. So I would just every couple of days start cold calling these wholesalers.
You didn't know who they were.
Didn't even know who they were. That's how I met Dennis, and that's how I met Jake LaRose as well, and Brad Donnelly, and several others. That's how I met in the beginning. Local wholesalers in
that's
our
funny.
area.
Brian and I just this morning shot a video on ways to find free leads. You know, I think we started off, we bought 1,000 houses in the last 10 years, and we talk about, the three main ways that we buy houses.
Wholesalers, real estate agents.
You're not supposed to tell them, they're going to watch the video.
I'm just getting a tip here. So
Okay,
they will
that's a
watch
tip.
the video.
This
Wholesalers,
is a
real
pro
estate
tip.
agents. Yeah, we go into a lot more detail in the video.
We do. I was
It's a pro
kidding.
tip.
Wholesalers, real estate agents, and driving for dollars are the three that we talk about that are free ways to get houses. And if you focus on those three, I promise you'll buy houses.
Have you bought anything that's not from a wholesaler, a real estate agent, or are you driving for dollars?
No, I haven't bought anything off the MLS. No.
That's pretty much.
Yeah,
sums it
pretty
up.
much. Yeah, pretty much.
Those are all free, easy sources.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's a lot of other stuff you can do to pay money for, but
Those are the free ways. So he's bought a lot of houses not from our marketing that we
Right,
pay for,
yeah.
but yes.
Yeah, Faster Houses marketing generates a tremendous amount of leads a year as well that we chase down to buy homes with as well.
Terry's got a question for you, Dusty, and then we got another one also.
let's see. What is there a price range, Dusty, that is your sweet spot for buying rentals?
I kind of in the beginning it was right around that $100,000 price point for an after renovation value, and then after I got a few up and running, I realized that if I bought, I would diversify what I had. That I wasn't ever in as much. I didn't have as much market risk for if I had low budget houses. Let's say below $50,000 ARV, and I had. That exposed me to a whole lot more of a crummy tenant population at times. So I kind of found my sweet spot right around that 100 mark for probably the first year.
So $100,000 ARV means what it's worth
After I rehab it.
After
After
you
I
rehab
rehab it. And then we consistently were doing nice enough rehabs to where even if I thought it was going to be $100,000, generally it appraised for 120.
Okay.
Like we were getting pretty good with
And
our work and the appraisers.
kind of, if you think it's going to be worth $100,000 when it's all fixed up, kind of what are you paying for it? What are you typically paying?
So if it was a $100,000 house and it needed a $25,000 rehab, I'd like to pay around the $50,000 mark.
Yeah.
Was my goal. That's 75% all in. That was my research goal. So I'd set it right there. But then after a rehab, generally we would appraise out for a higher value, and then our loan would be less. So my loan to value would be much better, which then gave me a whole lot more strength in my portfolio as well.
For sure. Another good question up here. Other than contractors, do you have prior relationships with? How are you finding quality contractors, investor-friendly prices?
Honestly, the local real estate meetups is where you find a tremendous amount of contractors that have, let's see how to put it. They want to work and they want to keep work coming, so their prices are more reasonable for the investor. They understand that if they find a couple investors early on in their building their business career, that they can always have work coming because these people will then take care of them. So the local real estate, the RIAs have been where I found probably 75% of my contractors.
Yeah, I always say good contractors work with good investors. So
Yep.
if you go
Agreed.
talk to good investors, more than likely they'll be willing to give you their contracts. They might have a couple that they'll keep in their pocket,
there's
but
a few that
overall,
I keep in my pocket.
overall they'll give you their contractors because if they trust you and you grow a relationship with them, they want to keep their contractors busy with good people.
Mhm.
So if they treat them right and you're going to treat them right, they'll share them with you. And a lot of it's trial and error too. You just got to deal with, going through them and learning. But the ones you do like, you need to always be in contact with.
Yep.
You communicate with clearly, pay on time, treat them fair, and they'll treat you fair back. So it's just
Agreed.
kind of there's no magic button to click. I mean, our local mastermind, we do have a group of contractors that we kind of share around. So if you get involved with a local mastermind or a local just investors in general, then they will share the
Yeah, I would add one thing to that. So not only finding other real estate investors, but also good contractors know other good contractors.
Right.
Yeah. So get in touch with good investors, ask them who their contractors are, but also once you start getting some contractors, ask your favorite contractors if they have referrals to other
Right.
contractors.
Who their people are that they
The other good
use.
question, Brian, you said you love questions, don't you?
I love it. Thanks for keeping it coming. Scott Opelt, how often do you have to go back and rehab a house after a bad tenant moves out?
So it's kind of hit or miss because not every, let's say, quote, bad tenant will leave the house in terrible condition. So if I move a tenant out and the rehab is less than between $5,000 and $7,000 on the tenant term, I just do a quick make-ready rehab. And if it's more than that, generally I'll wholesale it off. I'll sell it to another investor that then can rebirth the adventure again.
Because you have equity in it.
Correct.
You make some money
Yeah.
because you bought it low
Mhm.
enough.
Bought it low enough and you've paid down the mortgage over the last number of years that there's room to be able to sell it, put a little money in your pocket and buy another house in maybe a better quality area.
And this is a great question, Scott, because this is the most expensive part. This is the
Mhm.
part that can kill you. That's why it's important to do your best to get good tenants in
And
at the beginning, because this crushes you. If you have a house for 2 or 3 years, you built a little equity and the tenant moves out and it costs you $5, $6, $8 grand to get it back on the market. That's cash out of your
That's
pocket.
cash out of your
That's
pocket.
out of your pocket, and you're never going to get, or you're going to take years to get that back at $300 a month. But
Yeah.
if you if you take care of that at the front end and every time a tenant moves out, it's a cheaper amount, you can definitely save your portfolio, save you a lot of money.
And that's part of the reason that we rehab the houses the way we do with the custom kitchens and granite countertops and custom bathrooms, because the people, they may not be able to qualify for a house to buy that's as nice as the house they rent. So they want to stay put.
Yeah.
They stay put longer, and then they become referral sources to you for future tenants because their friends go in the house and like, wow, this is so nice. So the next time you got one coming up, they've already got a tenant placed for you.
And if you don't mind, I'll share on this too, because I used to get frustrated when we'd get a house back and it needed a fair amount of work. So, gosh, probably 7, 8 years ago, we started doing what we call our home visits.
Mhm.
We've gotten really tight on our tenant screening, looking at their background and so forth. But the last thing that we do before we approve a tenant to move into one of our houses is we go visit them in the house that they've been living in and make sure that, Nick, you rock. Make sure that they took good care of the house that they were living in. So that's part of our tenant
Yeah.
screening process.
Same for
Have
me.
you done that?
Yeah, same for me. I learned that from you guys real early.
So I think that's the best thing you can do, Scott. It's just one thing that's been the best for me anyway, is to eliminate people from messing up our houses. We go look at the house that they've been living in prior, as part of our tenant screening, to make sure that they take care of that house.
You don't give them much notice when you're going to do that either.
Yeah, we give them a day or two. I don't care if they clean up. I just
It's a proactive approach.
Yeah.
Another question. So how do you determine your ARVs and ensure their accuracy?
The best way in the beginning, I used to pay a real estate agent in the local market here $5 a house to run comps for me.
Nice. I didn't know
That's what I
that.
did, yeah. I paid a real estate agent. I looked up on Zillow and found the most active agent in the areas that I was buying in, and I paid him $5 a deal to run ARVs for me, to run
Okay.
comps. And he would send them, and I had specifics of what I wanted. Same bed and bath count, same quality of build, within a 10-year range on how old the house was, and then same square footage. And then if it was possible, same neighborhood, same school district.
You want to get as close in as you can to be the
Yeah.
same house. Ranches and two stories are not comparable.
Correct.
You need to be the same house. We have a video on our channel as well, talking about a max allowable offer, and I go into how we determine ARVs in that as well. So check that out on our YouTube channel. But that is a great
Yeah,
question.
'cause here in St. Louis, the Zillow estimate's less than 1% accurate. So that really doesn't give you a whole lot of good basis to base what the value of the house is truly off of.
Yeah, pretty ballpark. That's
Yeah.
really about it. You don't want to be buying houses.
Yeah, I don't want to be buying houses against that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Cool. Scott throws in there, LVP is a fantastic product. And back to the previous question about how do you make sure that you don't have a lot of damage on your houses? You've always talked about how you bulletproof your houses. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we just do hard surfaces everywhere. That LVP, like you said, that luxury vinyl plank, that kind of thing is in right now, and the granite countertops and the tile and all that stuff is in. But regardless if it's in or not, that's the stuff we use because we don't want to have to replace the floor every time a tenant moves in. That flooring's pretty sturdy. It'll last a while. We don't put carpet in. I know you can replace carpet easy, but that costs money. If you spend a little more money up front, tenants like it. It's going to wear better and it'll praise for more. And we just like to make as many hard surfaces as we can to make as bulletproof as possible. Not literally, but
that's even one of my buy criteria. If it doesn't have hardwood floors, I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah, I love hardwood floors too. I got a lot of houses that were built in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
Covered up and they're in great shape.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Speaking of bulletproof, Dusty, you were telling us a story earlier about a house you bought that when you went over there were bullet holes in it?
Yeah, we a local wholesaler that's a good friend of mine took me to a house a number of years ago in St. Anne, which is just outside of St. Louis. And when we showed up to the front of the house, on the front corners, both windows were boarded up on the front of the house. And then as we walked to the front, I had two of my kids with me at the time. He had one of his kids. It was like just a Saturday, grabbing some lunch, looking at some houses. And as we walked up, we were met by the next door neighbor on the right side of the house. He had to be nearly 100 years old at the time, honest. He walked out the front door. He was about 5 foot tall, had an old knitted cardigan on. And as he approached us about 10 yards out, he brandished a firearm on his shoulder to make sure that we weren't in the neighborhood to cause trouble.
And this is St. Anne.
This is St. Anne. It's like a nice area.
He wasn't scared of you.
Yeah, he wasn't scared of me. So as he did that, the firearm he had literally went from armpit to kneecap. It was like a Smith & Wesson 500, just a massive gun in a shoulder rig that he was never going to get out in time to do any damage. But he wanted to check on us and see what we were doing, what our intentions were. And he explained to us that this house was a previous drug house and there had been a double homicide in the front room.
Wow.
And when we walked into the house, it was very obvious that there had been a traumatic cleanup there. The hardwood floors were cut out in two body-shaped type patterns. The windows were
We're not going to
busted.
cut any extra carpet out, Brian.
There was huge holes in the hardwood. Claire, the real estate agent that helps me list my properties on the back end, when I told her this after we sold the house, she was in just frantic that nobody told her. I was like, I didn't need to tell you that. But there was bullet holes in the windows and body-sized prints in the floor that had been cut out that we had to, fix, etc. So that was quite the adventure in that house. But by the time we were done with it, the neighbors loved us. Yeah. We fixed fences, we moved furniture. We actually had to run a 911 call on one of the neighbors. One day she was outside and was exhausted in the heat, so we ran over there, took care of her. But that neighbor has then referred us several other houses that we have bought as Faster House on the same street.
So you bought that house and rehabbed it and retailed it?
Yeah, rehabbed it. I bought it for, somewhere in the low 40s, put about 20 to 30 in it, I think 25, let's say. By the time we were done, so we had to fix the air conditioner and a water heater issue. And we sold it for $109, I think.
Nice. Yeah. That's super cool. And one of the beautiful things about rehabbing houses is, especially a house that's been sitting vacant or had issues, is you make friends with the neighbors.
Yeah, make friends with the neighbors, Yeah, that guy in turn owns a bunch of National Tire and Battery stores here in the area, and we've, he's done work on our cars since.
Cool.
But he was a good dude to me.
Good. Another good question from Danielle. Is it a good idea to rent Section 8? I would like to acquire several properties, but also want to be recession proof. So that's a great question. I think we can always tackle it. There's a lot to that. So if you want to rent Section 8, obviously you got to know all the guidelines and the rules. There's hoops to go through, but I know a lot of people like Jennifer Downey, who Rachel's going to put another. You guys are asking questions.
There's another video.
We have another video on our YouTube channel that all we talk about. Brian, the interviews are for 35 minutes. All you talk about is Section 8.
She loves Section 8. She's a Section 8 queen.
She is.
I'll make her a shirt that says that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So I would say if that's something that you want to get into, make sure you know all this stuff, and that's a great way. A lot of people do only Section 8. That's all they do. Some people do a mixture of both. We don't do a ton of Section 8. I know you don't.
I have two.
Yeah, we do.
That I inherited.
We do a little bit. But I like the end of you don't want to be recession proof. And you can do that without having Section 8. You can do that with having a good property that you have, a good amount of equity in, that you're asking a proper amount of rent. Even during a recession, people still need to rent property. So maybe your rate would have to go down a little bit, your rental rate, But if you're having sitting at a grid LTV and your notes down and you have all your systems in place, nothing's recession proof, but real estate, owning single family rentals and real estate or small apartments is, in my opinion, one of the most recession proof things you can do. It's not like the retail market where a $500,000 house is going to be worth 400 in 3 months. It's not like that. It's a much slower moving thing. So I'll let you guys kind of answer that a little bit. I know you can go a lot of places with it.
Yeah, so I would just say, whatever you're gonna do, whether it's Section 8 or just regular market rent, just get really good at what you do. Jennifer is an expert in Section 8, and she loves Section 8, and it works really well for her. For whatever reason, I don't think any of the three of us have ever gotten to be experts of Section 8. We got a couple of properties, and it's kind of a hassle for us because it's a different process than what we're used to.
Correct.
So I just encourage you. I think some people love Section 8, some people don't. I think it can go either way. It just depends on what you prefer and what your style is, your personality, and maybe area of town that your houses are in and stuff. So either way works. But Jennifer is the queen of Section 8. So check out that YouTube video. You'll learn a lot.
Yep, it's a good one.
What do we got? We got any more questions? Or Rachel's pointing at
Do
something.
most of your tenants handle the basic yard and gutter maintenance? Great question. Scott's coming in with the questions today.
Love the question, Scott.
Yard work, yes. I don't put any tenant on a gutter.
You don't?
I'll find a handyman and pay him, $20 to $60 to clean gutters once a year. That's
Do you do that?
Yeah,
You clean all your gutters once a year?
I do. Guy's name is Ryan Fox. He's
Nice.
awesome. He'll get up there and clean any gutter I have, and most of the time it's like $20, $30.
That's a good tip. I would actually love to have his number.
Yeah, because I don't want the risk of having a tenant get up on the house, cause an issue, fall down, go boom. You're not designed to fall from that height. Your human body's not designed to fall from that height. So
What does your lease say?
they're only required to do landscaping and yard work, like basic yard work. They're not getting on a gutter
Well,
or the roof.
And I think everybody's different, which is good. Our lease requires our tenants to maintain the yards, maintain the landscaping, and clean the gutters. But if they don't want to do it themselves, then we give them a person
to do
that they can just pay to do it.
Yeah.
Costs a little bit more than the 20 to 25, so I think that's a good tip there.
Yeah.
But we do the same thing that Brian does, and we also do usually put gutter guards on as much as we can. It's a pretty simple little thing that just can help avoid them or us doing it.
Yeah, say that's usually about $4 or $5 a linear foot to put on in your rehab process.
You can do nicer ones or just the screens. There's different things you can do, but that's
The ones that are recommended from Angle Ridge are $4 or $5 a square or linear foot.
And it is, when I talked about my home visit earlier, that is one thing I go look for. When I'm going to do a home visit.
You know what trees coming out of the gutters?
Well, exactly. If they don't clean their own gutters or keep them clean, whether they do it themselves or not, we have a talk about it. That doesn't necessarily disqualify them as being a tenant, but at least we talk
Maybe
about
that's not in their lease at their current place either.
Could be, yes.
There's
All
a
right.
link to the video I talked about earlier. We talked about the rehabs and ARVs and making allowable, offers.
We're about up on our time. You got anything you want to say in closing, either one of you guys?
I don't think so. I think Dusty just shows that if you get in front of the right people and have a hard work ethic like his, anybody can do it. I joke with him all the time that if he can do it, anybody can do it.
I say that. If I can do it, you can do
I
it.
always joke that he thinks Forrest Gump's based on a real movie, a real person. So, but seriously, it's not as complicated as it sounds. If you don't know anything, it sounds super hard. But if you get to know the right people, get involved in your local real estate community. If you're in St. Louis, definitely hit us up at the Buyers Club and go to FasterFreedom.com and see the things that we're offering at extremely reasonable prices to help you get there quicker. So,
and if anybody if you feel the need to reach out to me or you got any further questions, you can reach out through the Faster House Facebook channel there.
Can
And
we
they
put your
can-
phone number on here?
They can get my contact info
All right.
if they request it. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody at any time, day or night.
And I believe that about you. You'd be willing to talk to anybody day or night.
Day or night. I like to talk.
All right, we're going to wrap this up for today. Thank you for joining us, everybody. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, like it,
subscribe to our channel.
to our YouTube channel. We appreciate all you guys for joining us and asking questions. And we will be back next Thursday at 11:30. So come on back.